They say the coastal town of Hoshimura is ordinary, until once a year when the horizon bleeds into scarlet and the sky burns as if touched by fire. For the locals, it's a night of celebration, the festival of red skies. But for one girl, it's a night she fears. Kaito stepped off the bus, suitcase in hand. A wanderer by nature, he'd grown used to drifting, city to city, job to job, searching for a place that felt like home. But as the evening sun dipped lower, painting the sky a faint crimson, he felt something stir, something he couldn't name. Kaito, inner voice. Strange. Why does this place feel familiar? He followed the sound of laughter into the town square, where children ran with sparklers and drums echoed in rhythm. Stalls lined the streets, candied apples, goldfish scooping, masks painted with fox faces. Everyone's eyes tilted toward the horizon, as though waiting. But then, amid the crowd, he noticed someone out of place. A girl stood in the shadows of a closed tea house, arms crossed, eyes lowered. While everyone else awaited the crimson sky with joy, she looked as though she dreaded it. Her name was Aria. And unlike the others, she never celebrated the crimson sky. Kaito, being who he was, couldn't ignore her. He approached, careful not to intrude. Kaito, not a fan of festivals? Aria glanced at him, startled, then quickly looked away. Aria, they're not for me. Kaito smiled faintly. Lucky for you, I don't know anyone here. So, if you stand with me, you won't look like the only outsider. Her lips almost curved into a smile, but stopped halfway. She turned back to the horizon. And then it began. The sun sank lower and the sea shimmered. The clouds ignited into shades of crimson, gold, and violet. The town gasped in unison, a sea of awestruck faces. Fireworks followed, bursting over the ocean like flowers of light. For a fleeting second, Aria's face lit up, her sorrow hidden by wonder. And Kaito, who had never believed in destiny, felt his heart move in a way it never had before. After the fireworks, the streets grew louder, music and laughter echoing through the night. Aria began to walk away, but Kaito followed. You really don't like this festival, do you? It's not that. It's dangerous. Kaito tilted his head. Dangerous? Everyone seems happy enough. Aria's eyes glimmered in the lantern light. Because they don't know the truth. Beneath the crimson sky, love is cursed. She walked off before Kaito could answer, leaving him standing amid the sound of drums and laughter, with only her words lingering like a chill. Later that night, Kaito found himself wandering along the seaside cliffs. The festival was still alive behind him, but here it was quiet. Just the waves crashing against rocks. And there, on the edge of the cliff, sat Aria again, staring out at the endless sea. Maybe he should have left her alone, but something about her sadness felt too familiar to walk away from. He sat beside her without a word. The two watched the waves. Minutes passed in silence. Then, softly, Aria spoke. When the sky turns crimson, lovers disappear. That's what the legend says. It's why I can't. Kaito turned to her, puzzled. Can't what? Her voice broke. Fall in love. The ocean wind carried her words, heavy and fragile. Kaito didn't know what to say, only that he wanted to see her smile again. That night, under the crimson sky, two strangers crossed paths. A boy searching for belonging, a girl running from fate. Neither knew that their meeting wasn't chance, but the beginning of a story written long before either of them was born. The waves roared louder. The crimson sky faded into black, and somewhere, in the silence between heartbeats, destiny whispered. The festival ended, but the memory of it clung to Kaito like salt on the air. He wandered through the town the next day, noticing details he had missed. The faded shrines at the edge of the cliffs, the offerings of flowers at the base of a weathered stone statue, the crimson-colored charms strung from doorways. As he walked, whispers followed him. "Did you hear? Another couple went missing last year. They say it's the curse again." Kaito stopped, curiosity piqued. Could Aria's words have been more than superstition? He found himself at the shrine on the cliffs, an ancient place overgrown with moss, guarded by a frail old man who swept the stone steps. Kaito bowed politely. "Excuse me, what is this place?" The old man's gaze was sharp despite his age. "This shrine honors those taken by the crimson sky." Kaito froze. "So, the curse is real?" "They call it a curse, yes. Long ago, two lovers defied the gods and swore to meet under the crimson sky. But the gods, angered, bound their souls. Since then, anyone who loves during the crimson sky vanishes, pulled into the sea, leaving nothing behind." The words chilled Kaito, but his disbelief fought back. "That's just a story." The old man leaned on his broom. "Perhaps. But in this town, stories have a way of becoming truth." Later that afternoon, Kaito walked along the beach, still turning the story over in his mind. That's when he saw her again. Aria stood barefoot on the wet sand, the waves pulling at her yukata, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She looked so fragile, as though one strong tide could sweep her away forever. He realized then, it wasn't that she hated the crimson sky. It was that she feared what it would take from her. He approached cautiously. "Do you believe it? The curse?" Aria didn't look at him. "I don't have the luxury not to." "Then why come here at all?" Her lips curved into a sad smile. "Because even if I can't have it, I still want to feel what love might have been." Her words hit him like a wave, and for the first time in years, Kaito's heart trembled. That evening, the two walked together through quiet streets. Kaito tried to lighten the mood, pointing out silly festival masks left hanging, telling stories of the cities he'd traveled. Aria laughed softly, a sound so rare it startled even her. For a moment, the weight of the curse seemed to vanish. "Kaito, you know, if curses were real, I should have disappeared already. I mean, I like being around you." Aria froze, her smile fading, her steps slowing. "Aria, don't say things like that. You don't understand what it means." But Kaito only looked at her, unwavering. "Then help me understand." Days passed, and Kaito found himself drawn deeper into Aria's world. They visited the old lighthouse, shared quiet meals, and watched sunsets in silence. Slowly, her walls began to crumble. One evening, as the sky burned orange, she pulled a small pendant from her sleeve, shaped like a crimson teardrop. "Aria, this was my mother's. She disappeared under the crimson sky, just like the legend says. And my father, he left after. I've been alone ever since." Her voice trembled, but she forced a smile. "That's why I don't celebrate. Love only takes. It never gives back." Kaito's chest ached at her words, but then something flickered in his memory, faint, like a dream. A lantern drifting on the sea, a girl's laugh, a promise whispered under crimson light. He shook it off. Surely it was nothing more than déjà vu. That night, Kaito lay awake in his small inn room, staring at the ceiling. Aria's words replayed in his head. The curse, the legend, the pendant. But louder than all of it was the sound of her laughter, fragile yet beautiful. He knew he was already breaking the unspoken rule. He was falling for her. And as he drifted into uneasy sleep, he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere in his past, he had met Aria before. The days after the festival were quieter. The town settled back into routine. Fishing boats at dawn, merchants calling out wares in the market, children chasing each other through narrow alleys. But beneath the calm, Kaito sensed something shifting. Every evening, the sunsets deepened into a redder hue, as if the crimson sky was coming early. And with each passing day, Aria grew more distant. Kaito found her at the cliffs one evening, her hair blowing wildly in the wind, the pendant clutched in her hand. "You've been avoiding me." Aria turned her eyes sharp. "Because you don't understand. Every time we talk, every time you stay by my side, you're drawing closer to the curse." Kaito stepped closer. "So what? You want me to just walk away?" Her voice cracked. "Yes, because if you don't, I'll lose you too." For a moment, the world was silent except for the crashing waves. Her tears glistened against the crimson horizon. Kaito's chest tightened. He wanted to reach out, to hold her, but she pulled away, vanishing into the shadows of the town. That night, whispers filled the town again. Another young couple had disappeared, their belongings found abandoned near the shore. Panic spread like wildfire. "The curse has awakened early this year. The crimson sky, it's coming again." Kaito listened, his blood running cold. He realized Aria's fear wasn't just superstition. Something was happening. Something real. Kaito found Aria hiding in the abandoned lighthouse. The air was heavy with the smell of salt and rust, and waves echoed through the broken glass windows. "My mother didn't vanish by chance. My family is bound to the curse. It takes those we love. It always has. That's why I can't let you stay." Kaito's fists clenched. So what if it's true? So what if there's a curse? I won't let it take me, and I won't let it take you. Aria shook her head desperately. "You don't understand. Once the crimson sky burns again, there's no stopping it." But Kaito refused to let go. "Then I'll defy it. If the gods curse this place, then let them curse me too, because I'd rather vanish than live without you." Her breath caught, her eyes wide with both fear and longing. The following evening, the sky darkened far too quickly. The horizon erupted in a crimson blaze, more violent than before. Waves crashed against the cliffs higher and wilder than any tide. The villagers rushed to lock their doors, but the air was thick with dread. It was as if the legend itself had awakened, and it had chosen tonight. Aria ran through the streets, her pendant glowing faintly against her chest. Kaito chased after her, refusing to let her face the storm alone. They reached the shore, waves exploding against the rocks. The crimson sky reflected on the water like a sea of blood. Aria fell to her knees, clutching the pendant. "I can feel it. It's calling me, just like it called my mother." Kaito knelt beside her, grabbing her hands. "Then let it call me too. If the curse takes us, it takes us together." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You're a fool." He smiled through the storm. "Then I'll be your fool." The sea roared, the wind howled, and for the first time, Aria let herself collapse into his arms. The ground trembled. The horizon split with lightning, and in the distance, voices echoed like whispers carried on the tide. The curse had awoken, but so had their love. The storm raged through the night, the crimson sky burning brighter than fire. The ocean rose like a beast awakened, waves striking the cliffs with thunderous force. The villagers prayed behind closed doors, too afraid to face the legend made real. But on the shore, Kaito and Aria clung to one another, standing against the tide. Aria's voice shook as she cried out against the roaring sea. "Why won't you leave? You'll disappear like the others," Kaito shouted over the wind. "Because I'd rather disappear with you than live in a world without you." Her tears mingled with the rain, her pendant glowing like fire against her chest. Suddenly, the sea stilled. A haunting silence fell. And then, in the crimson glow, visions rose from the waves, shadowy figures of lovers past, drifting like spirits. Among them, a woman with Aria's eyes reached out from the water. Aria gasped. "Mother." The figure's lips moved, though no sound escaped. Still, Aria understood. She stepped forward, but Kaito tightened his grip. "No, that's not your fate. Not tonight." The storm swelled again, but in that chaos, Kaito turned Aria toward him, his eyes blazing with defiance. "Curse or not, I need you to know this. From the moment I saw you, I knew. I don't care about legends or gods. I love you." Aria froze, tears spilling freely now. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. Finally, she choked the words out. "I love you too, even if it destroys us. I love you." Their lips met beneath the burning crimson sky, and for that single heartbeat, the world disappeared. No curse, no storm, only the fragile eternity of love. But the sea roared louder, as if angered by their defiance. The pendant shattered, scattering fragments of crimson light across the shore. Aria screamed, her body trembling, as if being pulled by invisible hands. "It's taking me! I can't fight it!" Kaito held her tighter. "Then take me too!" And in that instant, something changed. Instead of pulling them apart, the curse wavered. The storm faltered. The voices of the lost grew distant. The curse had been built on despair. But for the first time, it was met with love stronger than fear. Slowly, the storm began to fade. The crimson glow dimmed into pale orange. The ocean calmed, the sky softening as dawn broke over the horizon. Kaito and Aria collapsed onto the wet sand, exhausted, clinging to each other as if afraid the other might vanish. The curse had ended. The gods had relented. For the first time in centuries, the crimson sky gave way to sunrise. Days later, the town celebrated, not in fear, but in relief. The curse that haunted Hoshimura was no more. But Aria, weakened from the ordeal, fell into illness. She spent her days resting, her laughter softer, but her eyes brighter than before. One evening, Kaito found a folded letter beside her pillow. In her delicate handwriting, she had written, "My dearest Kaito, if you're reading this, then perhaps the crimson sky has taken me after all. But don't grieve. For the first time in my life, I loved, and I was loved. That alone is enough. If the sky turns crimson again one day, don't fear it. Look up and remember me smiling. Beneath the crimson sky, we will always meet." Kaito's hands shook as he read, tears falling freely. But when he looked up, Aria stood there, fragile yet alive, smiling faintly. "Kaito, you're still here." "Aria, of course. I promised I wouldn't leave you." Months later, the town gathered again at the cliffs, this time not in fear but in celebration. The crimson sky appeared once more, but no one vanished. Instead, it painted the horizon in breathtaking beauty. Kaito and Aria stood hand in hand watching the sea. The curse had been broken. What remained was only love, and the memory of those who came before. Aria leaned against Kaito's shoulder, her voice a whisper carried by the wind. Beautiful, isn't it? He kissed her forehead gently. Not as beautiful as you. And so, beneath the crimson sky, their story was written. Not in fear, but in love. A legend reborn, not as a curse, but as a promise. Because sometimes, even the gods cannot stand against two hearts that choose each other, again and again, until the last sunrise.